First of all, my name is Brian Kale from Goose Creek District. And here's my email address here. Feel free to anything, questions or comments or anything, please. I'd love to get them, and that's not just like a week or two after powwow, all year long. I get tons of comments and things all year long, and I get hundreds of Cub Scout emails, and I'm a district roundtable commissioner, so that's sort of the thing I do. So I enjoy doing it. So anything you have. If I can't find the answer, if I don't have the answer, I'll find it for you. So let's talk about campfires. In my opinion, one of the best parts about being a Cub Scout leader. Okay, campfires. If you build it, they'll come, right? Every boy, you build a fire, doesn't matter what they're doing, all of a sudden they're around the fire, poking it with a stick. And then they're taking the stick out and writing their name in the air. And they, ooh, look at the ember over here. And you're constantly telling them, put the stick back in. The stick doesn't come out. Remember that? Okay? But, why do we have campfires? Okay? So, there's the real obvious ones. For warmth, it's a cold morning, you just got up, it's about 35 degrees, it's a little chilly. You create one, it helps you feel better, more comfortable, it's good for warming water or such. These are very simple, pragmatic ways. It's good for cooking. My pack does a lot of cooking over the campfire. We try to, as much as possible, because it really is something the boys don't see, not in their regular life. Cooking over a cook stove is the same as cooking over their stove at home. So, I try to show them a little bit of difference that. Sometimes it's not as good as cooking over a cook stove because the heating, you have to be more aware of how the cooking works, and ooh, it's sort of raw over here, it's overcooked over here, and those kind of things. Dutch ovens are always fun. It's entertainment, okay? It becomes a place of gathering. It doesn't matter, like I said, it doesn't matter what is going on in the camp. As soon as the fire is lit, the boys are there. They could have been playing the best game of tag over there, and as soon as one boy goes, fire's lit! They're like moths to a flame, literally and figuratively, okay? And adults enjoy just sitting by there and just talking and listening to the crackle and just sitting back and letting the night go on and let other people watch their kids, right? Okay. But we can take it from just being there and entertaining to actually part of our program. And here's the key. Campfires are an integral part of a Cub Scouting program. And we need to make sure that we are providing ways to create lasting memories and maybe even teach them something along the way. Okay, so, in scouting we've always had them, right? Those of you who are scouts, you probably remember campfires. Some of my most vivid Boy Scout memories are campfires and the skits we used to have around them and all the craziness that we have there. And the fact that somebody fell in a fire, and there's always that. You always remember that, especially if it's you, because you were not doing something very bright. Fire's cool. The boys are, ooh, yeah, fire's cool. And the fact that they get to stick sticks in them and poke around and push around coals. And, everybody loves the fire. And truthfully, it's a good way to cap off your day. They could have done a million things. You could have gone on a hike. You could have, everybody could have done all these great things, but everyone wants to sit and enjoy the fire. Okay? So it's building memories. It's fun. There's the key, it's fun. Okay? So, why do scouts have them? Okay? Lord Baden-Powell, even back when he was first putting together the scouting program, recognized what campfires were an integral part of the evening activities. For them, obviously, it was cooking, but it was also entertainment, telling stories. It was a time for reflection and camaraderie, making close friends, and really having that true conversation. Not just the casual, hey, I need something, okay. It was actually deeper conversations. And it was an opportunity for the leaders to impart a little more wisdom during that time, because it was a calming time. Okay? Set the stage for being more receptive to scouting's deeper meaning. Okay? But here's the biggest reason for us today. Campfires encourage family togetherness. Okay, as soon as that fire started, the families bring all their camp chairs, and siblings are there. Because Cub Scout camping has siblings and parents and boys. It brings them all together. For some parents, it's a stressful time. Oh, no, don't touch the fire, don't do this. Don't. And it's also a learning experience for parents to let go. It's okay. Some boys you got to be on. But they start to learn responsibility. It's about teamwork. Have your Cub Scouts go out, go get the wood, set the fire, teaching them how to set a fire, to actually start one. Modeling Scout law. The programs we do around the campfire, are based on the Scout law and about being respectful and using all these different skills we've learned. it's about confidence. As we do programs around the fire, the boys have a chance to practice and try things. Scouting is the only program out there in which failure is actually encouraged. Try this. It didn't work? Let's try it again. What do you think we need to change? Okay, let's do this. Let's face it. Your life lessons have been strongly provided to you through failures. I cannot think of anything in my life that I actually learned through success. That's a fact. I felt good about it, but my failures and then getting up and trying again and learning to change it slightly is where I truly learned something. It really came down to it. And that's what we do here as well. All right, so there's the 4 S's of doing a campfire. Showmanship, songs, stunts, and stories. But there's a P in there too. Planning. Ah, that's the bad word. Everybody hates hearing the P word. Scouting. Oh, not more planning. We plan all the time. Can't we just have fun? Sure. But if you want your program to really take a leap forward rather than just a baby step forward, you do some planning. All right, so what are you planning? Everything. Oh, that sounds horrible. I don't want to plan everything. You got to. Especially, you put on the tent shirt, you're the leader, that's your job. Location, responsibility, the program, what ifs, safety. In reality, that probably should be here, 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 and here again. Because safety is always number 1. Okay? It's tempting to skip the planning, but it makes all the difference in how the program comes off. All right, so for the location. It should be about transporting to a magical place, right? It should be a wonderful opportunity to create all these ties to scouting history. I mean, look at this place. This is gorgeous. Awesome. Can you imagine the echo off the lake? Okay, let's be realistic. I've never done a campfire at either one of these. I've been to a couple in my life, but very few. These are the unusual. If you have opportunity and you know where these are and you go to them as a pack, you guys are lucky and enjoy them and use the heck out of them. But let's face it, that's not really the way it is. It's the best locations are always where you're at. It's near your camping site, or maybe there's a little arena close by or something, but we always need to worry about, as scouts, that we're leaving no trace. We're teaching even Cub Scouts about leaving no trace, okay? That we're not going to create a brand new campfire location, not a new campfire ring. Use the ones that are there. We should be looking towards safe scouting. And our setup is, we've got this set up earlier. We can't just start doing the setup when we start the fire. It needs to be set up a little bit beforehand. So, typically, Cub Scouts set up their campfire in a couple places. Their meeting area. You sort of got a little side area that's close to where everyone is, where everyone's sort of come together. And it's the most convenient. The families know where it is. The con is this, usually you're using that space right up to the time it's doing a campfire, so it's hard to say it's time for the campfire. There's no real demarcation of what's going on there. Okay? The food prep area. Sometimes these 2 areas are the exact same place. That's even harder. We just finished cooking, let's clean up. Okay, everybody go away for a minute and come back, and now we're going to do a campfire. Our pack often has to do this because there's only one fire area. The key we do here is make sure that absolutely all the food prep is taken care of, everyone's finished eating, all the plates and everything have been cleaned, all the dishes have been done. Fix that in a minute, still okay. And those are things that we have to do to make sure that ends our eating time. And I usually put about 20 minutes after eating time before a campfire. Tell people, make sure you go get your flashlights because it's going to be really dark. And go do this. Get your jacket because it's going to get chilly. Have them go away and come back. Now, away from camp is a lot of times where if you go to a Weeblo-ree or a camporee or summer camp, it's typically away from your camp, right? Those are. But you got to remember there's time to get there, and also what's the trail look like that you get there. Remember, these are families traipsing along, usually with little kids. So you got to be very aware, and if you need to set up different points of light along the way to help them, there's a series of roots right here. You need to set a lantern or something like that, so people are like, why is that here? Oh, roots, and they step over. You cannot trust that people are going to take their flashlight and actually go this. Most kids are doing this, and they're not paying attention, and then they fall down, and they cry, and then you have to handle that first. So it's important to have all these in your mind. Okay, but it's important also that it's a safe venue. All right, so you're talking about your setting. Indoor versus outdoor, open area versus closed in, fire, no fire, seating, setup. Oh my gosh, there's so much planning to do. Okay, a lot of these become second nature, but you really need to hit every single one of these before you actually start the campfire. All right, indoor versus outdoor. You guys have done an indoor campfire before, right? No? No? There are several different ways. I mean, obviously, this gentleman here is having an indoor campfire inside of it's almost like a pavilion. We'll call it an indoor because it has a roof over top of it. But it's got a very well-established fire area, and it's got a safety front to it as well. That's more of the campfires we've always had. That's a little big for that campfire. Apparently, they put a lot of wood on to start off with. Both of these have a lot of positives and negatives, and there's no wrong on either one of them. It's just you need to be aware of what you need to be, watching each time. An indoor one, typically if it's fully indoor, it's more climate controlled. If it starts to rain, no big deal. Don't care. Outdoor, if it rains, you might care a little bit. Okay. However, indoor it's confined space. The Cub Scouts, for some reason they get a little restless when they feel like, there's confined space. They want to move a lot more. It does have limited nature sounds, which is good because folks, especially Cub Scouts, don't project very well. So it's typically easier to hear. And you can control lighting usually too. So, now outdoor though is what most people think of when they think campfire. And the natural fading light creates a dramatic beginning of your campfire. And the outdoor sounds really can be played upon, like for the mystery or for the adventure or everything that's going on. These are big deals. And then typically your fire, you have more of a, let's call it a more in the round for your fire for outdoors. Because the fact of the matter is I can have boys a little bit more off around, where here the fire is really well divided from the boys, and typically it's not quite what people think is a campfire. So these are things to keep involved. Neither one of them is wrong, just know that these are things that you need to work with and work within when you're creating a campfire. Alright, so you're indoor. Establishing your seating areas is important. Where's your staging area? Den number 2 is doing a skit. Den number 3 is on deck. Where's den number 3 right that moment? Is they still sitting in the crowd? It's usually not a good plan because usually your transition between becomes a lot of chaos. It's nice for den 2's up, den 3 quietly goes to the side so they can immediately move in. And so you're creating campfire moves that way. But where do you create your staging area? Scout that out. Are they going to use chairs on the floor? You've got to think these things through. Audience chatter. Controlling that's tough indoors. And a lot of indoor places now are required to have emergency lights, so you can't actually get it fully dark. Maybe you use that to your advantage. But you can use flags too. Fireplace management is always the job of an adult, never a kid. Even a weeble. It should be an adult's job. And it should be just wood inside the fire. The key here is you can still do an indoor almost any time. It doesn't have to be a camping trip. Indoor allows you a lot of opportunities to go do a campfire when it's not an overnight trip. You can do ones at your school with a fake fire like I have there. You can do one at a local VFW who has a nice big fireplace with a mountain. You can do one there. It has a bigger room. You can do them without it becoming a whole weekend event. And parents are like, we just don't have time for that. It allows you to do them more often and actually incorporate more kids into it. Outdoor. Once again, you still have to define where people are sitting and where your staging area is. Typically, though, it gives you a little more options because the fire is not closed off in the back. So it's more, behind the fire is the staging area. Set your fire zone. Here's the key to outside. Voices have to carry. If your kids are doing skits, and there's a lot of words to it, typically most kids just can't pull it off. They usually talk really low, and everyone's like, and then constantly the other kid's like, what's he saying? What's he saying? And then all it does is it creates more chaos. So be aware of that. And having that performance location is great. Now, fire safety gear. When you head indoor, remember in here, you still have fire safety gear, but it's not quite as important to have it really close by. The chances of the fire escaping the fireplace is a lot less than the fire, like you created a log cabin here and the log cabin falls to one side. The option there is a lot more prevalent. So you need to have your fire gear stationed a lot closer. Also, this, you have to worry about leave no trace. Typically here, you're not setting the fire in the middle of the room, so leave no trace shouldn't be an issue here. And once again, size of fire. How about open area versus closed area? It's often decided by the size of your group. When I do, my pack usually goes camping, we usually take about 100 people when you have parents, siblings, and kids, about 100. And typically, it is in a more enclosed area. It works very well for sound, it works for what's going on. If you had a large, like it was going to be a Weeblos and you had 300, it typically needs to be a much larger, wide open area for seating and such. Closed areas are more intimate. Families typically, for some reason, they feel more comfortable in closed areas with their kids, as if their kids can't escape in a closed area. I mean, let's face it, if they have a sibling that gets up and walks away, they're still going to get up and walk away. But parents feel it's better when they're in a closed area, as if they won't walk away as far. A wide open field, people feel like, well, they could just disappear in all different directions, and I wouldn't know where to start looking. And open areas are typically for larger groups. That's not nearly as important, just understanding how you're setting everything up and for safety. Obviously in a closed-in area, when there's a lot more brush, a lot more overhanging trees and such, you need to be a lot more aware of the size of your fire. All right, so there we go. How about without a fire? My pack for the longest time didn't have this fake fire, and we would have some crumpled up aluminum foil and a couple flashlights. Wow, that's lame. For about a minute. And then once the program started, the boys didn't care. You know, it was just a central focal point, and that was the key. We were still having a program. The boys all of a sudden forgot that there's really no fire there. They were enjoying the skits and the songs and the cheers and everything was going on. It didn't matter. It was just your central focal point. You know, and let's face it, cleanup for that was incredibly easy. You know, I mean, yeah, chip, box, done. You know, it was very easy. That's probably why we did it for 4 or 5 years. It's quick setup. It doesn't diminish the magic. Don't sell it short. Even doing something like that for a pack meeting, like, you know, you have your pack meeting and it's going to be running as a campfire, it still works. Because the boys, all of a sudden, in their mind, assume it's part of the campfire. And so that's just the way it is. They have no problem with what's going on. So, you know, it still has to have a central location. I've seen someone use glow sticks. I'm not sure about that one. That one's, to me, it was actually easier to have a lantern or a couple flashlights, or even you could just have a cutout fire. But I believe flashlights or lanterns are probably the better way to go, just because it creates some light as things get dark. So, all right, how about seating? Notice the seating of this one right here? It's all the way around. It's a really cool fire pit, but for a Cub Scout event, that's a really tough seating arrangement. Where's the stage? Where are the skits going to be done? I mean, you've got the one guy playing the guitar right here. But in reality, he's not playing the guitar as a centralized point, he's playing background music. So seating is important. How you arrange that makes all the difference in the world how the program works. You know, sitting the boys by dens is very good. It encourages teamwork. It also allows you to quickly be able to look and know if Den 2 is going to do the next gate, you can look over the area where they were sitting. If they're still sitting there, hey, Den 2, you're next. If they're all spread out, it's hard to tell if everyone's ready, and then they forget, oh yeah. You know, kids forget a lot of times, and if they're all sitting together, come on, we gotta go. What? Oh yeah, we gotta go. You know, they can help each other there. Also, having your parents close by, it's easier for them to manage too. They know, that's the group, and they know that so-and-so is his best friend. He's gonna sit beside him and help us out there as well. Yeah, adults help you throughout this fire. All right, so here's, in my opinion, the optimal seating for a fire. You've got the fire with an appropriate safety ring. You've got your stage area, which is in front, your on-deck area back here, and your fire safety gear here, which is out away from here. Notice that all the fire gear is away from where any boys will be walking, so they don't trip over a rake or a bucket or whatever else you've got. But it's still close enough where the adult can take care of what's going on in case the fire starts and they get a little out of control. Okay. Every seat should be the best seat in the house. In the round allows that. If there's my stage area, every person here has got really good seat. If I've got boys sitting back here and the fire is in between them and the action, they can't see. And typically boys who can't see will move and get restless and make noise and do all kinds of crazy stuff that you don't want to do in the dark. All right, so now you've got your location, you're setting. How about responsibilities? Sounds like a lot of people here, doesn't it? Planner, master of ceremonies, team leaders, run-on team, song leaders, cheer masters, fire masters. Holy moly. That means you need about 20 adults, right? No. One person can do several of these jobs, but you don't want one person doing every one of these jobs, which happens in packs a lot. The Cub Master's up there, he's the master of ceremony, he's taking care of the fire, he's doing this, he's doing that, he's the song leader, da-da-da. Okay, maybe for one fire that's okay, but eventually that leader is not doing the best job of keeping everyone's attention. Having different leaders come in and different boys come in and do things is important to keep action moving and make it an entertaining campfire. Anybody used a planner? You guys used a planner? No? I didn't used to until I did wood badge, and then we used one of these for our campfire there. And it was like, wow, that was really convenient. I put down what the activities are, how much time is for each one, who's involved with each one, and who's responsible for it. And then I could email that out to every den leader before the event, and they go, oh, hey, we're here, here, and here. They know the batting order. So it was good for them to see. Also in these things, they can also write down what props they need to make sure they have. Hey, we're going to be doing the invisible bench, no props required. Hey, we're going to be doing the puppy in the box. I mean, a box. You know, we're going to be doing, having the prop list there so the boys know what's going on, and it works out well. Now, the person who does all the paperwork and all this kind of stuff, it doesn't have to be overly cumbersome. It's a quick cheat sheet of your batting order. It's that simple. And having a plan B is also good too. You know, what's going on here, how are we going to do, if we know that the campfire is going along, which ones are we going to pull out? We know what the batting order is there. That goes a long way. Okay, BSA calls out the master of ceremonies to build this thing. That's not necessarily true. It should be someone who wants to do it, has the time to do it, and has actually been to a campfire before. Oh wow, that's not that many people. That's everybody. The MC doesn't have to be doing that. The MC is your bigger than life going to make it happen. It doesn't have to necessarily be the MC that puts all this together. Now they should know it very well when it's time to to put on the program. They don't need to do all the planning. But let's talk about the MC. MC is leading the program. Doesn't mean they're doing absolutely everything. Doesn't mean they're doing every skit. Doesn't mean they're leading every song. It just means that they're coordinating the comings and goings that's going along here. They're reading the audience. Sometimes they're reading the audience and realize, hey, everyone's getting a little restless. We need a cheer. You know, they've got a couple things in their pockets to pull out there and keep everybody going. There's the biggest one. Manages time. You're in a campfire and you're at an hour. Oh my gosh, it's still an hour. Too long. Cub Scouts aren't going to make that. They start, it's like, okay, we got to pull this and pull this. And sometimes, one den needs to come up. They're not there. Dead time. It's time to do a little plan B action in here too. I'm going to fill it up with something. Maybe it's a run-on. Maybe it's a silly joke. Maybe it's whatever. But you're filling time too. I was at a camporee where the group that was going to do the next skit, they had to run back and get something from camp. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And they went, and so I am up there vamping for about 8 minutes, and telling this crazy story. I'm making up this really story, and to fill this section. That's what an MC has to do. Because hey everybody, this is 8-minute intermission. Don't go anywhere. Yeah, 300 Cub Scouts in there, but like it would be the worst thing ever.
We've been working a lot on our campfires is watching downtime between skits. So we have the next up. So we'll say this is den 6, den 5. You're
exactly.
On that. So that's 6 kids. You lose them, or 8 kids. They're getting ready. But at least the downtime. I was watching prior years. Our master. There was a lot of downtime. You lose the kids when they're waiting. As soon as no one's up there entertaining me, they're poking their buddies. And
they've got to find something to do
really fast.
Yeah, so they're on deck, and that's where the master of ceremonies is really watching the pace, time, telling who's on deck, sort of controlling the ebbs and flows, and that's important. And it cannot be overstressed that person is in control of the campfire. But they can do it any way they want. Like this gentleman here, he decided to dress it up in a little bit of, he's got a kilt and got a top hat on it. The MC can dress it up and make it huge, bigger in life. Wear a scout uniform, or whatever. I've done both. But it doesn't have to be the Cub Master. Almost every pack automatically assumes the MC is going to be the Cub Master. Because the Cub Master's always up front. He's always leading stuff. Doesn't have to be the Cub Master. Somebody wants to do it. And somebody who is good at it. And it's really nice sometimes to let the Cub Master sit back and actually enjoy a program. So, you know, rotate it around. They can use whatever theatrical aids. Having a whole bunch of quippy little comments and the abilities to sort of, you know, lace everything together is good. Typically a good MC will have a funny little corny joke after every skit. Oh, you know, about the invisible fence. Well, what was the one I heard? The best one of that. Well, that's not the kind of bus stop I want to go to. And the kids are like, what? And then they go, and then they have it done. Or something. You can do anything in there, but just lacing it together. I've seen where two MCs did the whole the Muppets. You know, the two old guys up in the box with like the little snide comments. Just be careful with those kind of things where it doesn't hurt any kids' feelings. You know, adults, you can play around with that, but the kids don't. You know, you don't make fun of kids during the campfires. All right, how about your den leaders? They're sitting back not doing anything, right? No. They have been working with the boys on their performance. They practiced. They don't just come up with, hey, I gotta say what I do right now. Okay, let's go. The boy's like, what? What are we gonna do? What am I gonna do? Just stand there, we're good. The den leader is also not the star. It should be the boys. But they should coach the boys on, you know, make sure you're speaking loudly. What's the right pace? You know, boys, we're gonna be in 2 more skits. Get ready. You know, let them know. Sort of help them coordinate in small groups. Song leaders. Song leaders should be good singers, right? Cub Scouting is not about singing well. It's about singing loudly and with energy. Truthfully, most of the best song leaders I've ever seen are the ones who sing really poorly. Because the boys love it and they don't worry about how badly they're singing. Because they know that Mr. Smith is like the worst singer ever. This is going to be awesome. You know, and the parents also don't care about singing too because, man, Mr. Smith is a horrible singer. It's really fun. It tends to be where they're good at helping perform gestures and leading the boys, and the boys have fun with this song leader. So, yeah, that's important. How about a fire master? You guys have a fire master? Is it usually the Cub Master? It's important to establish one person who's the fire master, and that person is not in the program. Their job is the fire. Starting the fire, maintaining the fire, putting out the fire, safety. That's their job. There's always somebody in the pack who wants to do that job. They don't really want to be the performer, but they love the fire. I'll take care of that. And part of that is that way the MC and everyone else can focus on the program and not did a log just roll off the back of the fire. That's the fire master's job. And he can quietly go back over and push everything back. Every once in a while add a log and just maintain the fire.
Make sure the fire master knows BSA rules too, because I've seen so much lighter fluid during a pack meeting. The kids, when I start a fire, it's like, where Mr. So-and-so has his lighter fluid. It's like, no, that's not how
we had a discussion with our pack group, because we tried this last pack camp out to do a spontaneous fire. It's mechanical. You use sandpaper and blue tips, and you pull string. And they had to call the spirits to light the fire. And we did like 3 times. They're really loud. I mean, I triggered it, I signaled my guy to trigger it, and it flamed up and inflamed it. It didn't catch. We know what to do better next time. But I mean, you roll with it, you know. But
yeah, and then you make a funny
loved it though. Even if it didn't work, the kids still like, there's a fire there. I'm nothing.
The kids love the lighter fluid too.
No, we don't sell it. Well, there's one this you can pour water on to start the fire.
Yeah.
I gotta check that one because I'm gonna tell the kids next time. We made a mistake last time. We didn't put water on the fire.
Yeah, right. A chemical compound.
It creates a chemical reaction.
There are all kinds of opportunities, and the key is safety. But have someone that's a responsibility, because it's important that that safety aspect is focused on constantly. Now I've got lost because I've got to make sure this stand is going over here and here. Meanwhile, I'm not paying attention to fire, and all of a sudden one kid's going, Mr. Kale, that tree's on fire. Yeah, that puts the program in really quickly. Okay, so finally the program, like, finally, we're getting to the part where the program, we've all this planning. Number 1, appropriateness. Everything in the program should follow the Scout Oath and law. no questions asked. That's the way it is. You know, in the past when I was a Boy Scout, there were a lot of skits which were the funniest skits ever. And as a boy, I loved these things to death. But in reality, they were really over there on the edge with being inappropriate or talking about way too much, you know, bodily functions, or, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, do we really have to be this PC? And they're like, yes, we do. Yes, we do. The key here is that we've got young boys, 6 to 11, and there are tons of things that are fun to do. We need to just make sure that we stay within a certain guidelines and weigh it against the Scout law. Is it reflecting that's the key thing. If there's any question at all, any doubt about whether or not it's appropriate, don't do it. It's not worth the chance. It's just not. What's best to avoid? Religion, underwear, toilet paper, politics, inside jokes, alcohol, drugs, tobacco, and cross-gender impersonation.
Another topic that I've been seeing a lot is bullying.
Yes.
Like they'll have
Bullying
a
is bad
skit
too.
whereas a boy is getting beat up and, you know, isn't that funny? Which the kids all think it's funny, but obviously it doesn't encourage.
The parents read a line into it. The key is the boys think a lot of things are funny, and most of the stuff it rolls right off of them, but we're not supposed to be demonstrating that for them. Okay? We're supposed to be demonstrating the Scout law at all times. And the parents are our customers. And we need to make sure that, you know, I'm a parent and I don't want my kids, you know, constantly being given something that I think is inappropriate. So there are so many things that you can do that are funny that it's not even worth trying to edge over to some of these. One of the funniest skits ever when I was a boy was 2 scouts were doing this whole tale about a princess being saved from a dragon. And they constantly would change outfits. Each one of the scouts was like 10 different characters. And what the funniest part of that is they were moving so fast at the very end that all the costumes would be all screwed up. Well, one of them had to play the princess. Okay? In today's world, that's not appropriate. Okay? Now, that doesn't mean that you couldn't have one of your female pack leaders be the princess. Or maybe one of their siblings be the princess. There are other ways to get them, because these are still really funny skits. Just that we're trying to make sure that we're not offending. Okay? And we're maintaining the Scout oath of law. How about length? I've been to a couple of packs, not my pack, but other packs, where the campfire was an hour and a half.
Oh my God.
At that point, I couldn't feel my rear. I really couldn't. I've been sitting on logs so long, I'm like, I have to stand up. I just can't feel my, way too long. 45 minutes. That's your goal. 45 minutes. Maybe a little bit longer if there's a ceremony there. You know, if you're going to do some flag retirements or something like that, maybe a few more minutes. 45 minutes. That's about it. Boys get wiggly, and let's face it, they keep asking you near the end, when are we doing the s'mores? It's like, soon as the program's over. I think it's over now. Done. I mean, if they're telling you, the longer ones they're too much pressure for too much performance, the parents get antsy too, they're worried that the boys are going to start getting unruly. It just doesn't help. 45 minutes is a good way to go. Okay, but always follow the campfire. You guys know what I mean? Good. Start the program slowly and thoughtfully. You just lit the fire and start to build. Unless you poured lighter fluid on it, it just starts to build. Obviously, if you pour lighter fluid, you're skipping down here with energy. But no, typically it should start to build. Like you have your mechanical and also a little bit of flame, and if it worked correctly, you can continue to build. You're having a thoughtful opening. Typically, this is the time when you add like historic ashes to the flame. And when you start the Cubmaster or whomever is up there talking about, about the fire. There's always been fire in the stories told, but they're sort of building it up. It's starting to go on before they move into energy, activity, songs, cheers, adventure, and then slowly the program's going to start moving out to a Cubmaster or some other MC minute, and then a quiet song at the very end to peter it out. And that ends your campfire, and then you can build up a little bit more to cook your s'mores that the boys have been wanting for the whole time.
And you run around like crazy with sugar.
Yeah, then you give it to the parents and go, hey, no problem. This is following the campfire. If you learn nothing else but this right here, this will take you a long way, because it really is the natural way to build a program. If you start out with nothing but big energy, big energy, big energy, it seems like you slide to the end really fast. It's like a roller coaster where there's nothing but one big hill and you're done. The build up, the anticipation of going up the roller coaster and like here we go, is part of the joy there. So this right here is the key. Oops. All right. This is what's built up. So when you start up, here's what I do as part of the build-up. You know, they welcome everybody. If we have new families, their first camping trip, a lot of times, it's nothing more than, hey, we got a couple new families, hey, we're glad you're here, so-and-so, we're glad you're here, so-and-so. You don't want to get up, don't want to embarrass them. You just sort of call them out. And the kids like that too, because they're not really the spotlight, but they are in the spotlight. Pretty cool. You know, and then any volunteers that have made that camping trip possible, hey, thanks so much for, you know, so-and-so for cooking, and so-and-so for cleaning up, with that, you know, great job, thank you so much. Thank you for so-and-so for bringing, you know, coming in and going to shopping for the food, you know, that kind of thing. You're going to review some etiquette, you know, don't use flashlights, don't shine eyes at performers, that kind of basic stuff. Don't talk, safety. Hey everybody, just remember, everybody was practicing here, so let's make sure we give everyone a big hand with feeling after they're, you know, and you're giving them, it's still entertaining, but you're reminding them that everyone wants to be treated nicely. It's about kindness and friendliness, because that's Cub Scouting. History of the campfire, you can bring historic campfire ashes. My pack maintains ashes that we take from one fire and we pour it onto the next fire. I always add stuff to it, sugar, magnesium, something to make it do a little more to it, little sparks. There are several companies out there that are now selling these different chemical groupings that'll make your fire turn different colors.
We did that last campfire.
Yes,
Kids
the
like,
boys
how's that
thought that was
happening?
big. Yeah, they thought that was awesome.
Fire. Yeah, they
We
were.
do that when we dump in the ashes, it's the spirit of the
Yeah, exactly.
fire. So
And we always talk about the history of these ashes. Our ashes from our campfire are from 50,000 different campfires. They can trace their lineage through, you know, through Baden-Powell's, you know, Brown Sea Island. These are the kind of, you know, so it's an amazing amount of history. You can draw them along and really captivate. And the parents are like, wow, you know, you really got them. You got the hook in their mouth then too. It's like, this is not going to be a kid's campfire. This is going to be good. You're going to, you know, and they're in there as well. So having this build-up, anticipation, really makes a difference. And then finally, the fire lighting. I mean, it can be slow and dramatic. It can be, I've done one where a skit about performing of how the lighting occurs, and the skit was, you know, it just wasn't going to be lit. There's just no way. And then finally, a little boy walks in, and you know, we have paper where he can stick his match, and all of a sudden, woof. And I mean, over here, we're like using match after match, and the adults can't get it started, but a little boy can start, and life is good. You know, safety should always be number one, but you've got all kinds of ways to do that. It may be the energy to start the fire is, you know, we all have to clap, or, you know, tap our knees, or whatever the case is, you know, yell or chant or anything. The boys love all these things. These are all good starts, and participation. It's setting the pattern of participation. So that's the key. All right. Best programs use what the boys love. Every show doesn't have to be a brand new show. Well, we can't use that one. We used that line. We did skit last time. Boys love anticipating things. There are 2 stories that I'm asked to tell every campfire. And they know the story. They can probably quote it back to me. But they want to hear it. So I'll change it just so slightly, but we'll go into it. It's always very dramatic. And, you know, and it's the pink Amazon gorilla. And they love that story. And it's Tiger Red. That's exactly right. And we're building it up. And all the new kids are like, ooh, and then all of a sudden it's the Tiger Red. Oh, it's not scary at all. So it has that kind of aspect. But it's okay to do these favorites. They have a favorite song, sing it. Favorite cheer, do it. It's good. The boys love anticipating things. The parents may hate you later on because the kids sing the same song over and over. But that's okay. That's your job. Wind them up and send them home. So you're like a grandpa. Yeah, there you go. You know, have the boys do as much as they can. You know, obviously if you go camping and it's all tigers and, you know, and wolves, you know how a whole lot of weeblos, there's a limit to what they can do versus what a weeblo can do. There's a huge difference between a 6-year-old and a 10-and-a-half-year-old. And adult leaders up front are okay. Let's try to, as much as possible, make the boys the stars. Songs, repeat after me songs, gold. They're absolutely gold. And, you know, some of them, they become their pack favorites. Patriotic songs, good stuff. Very appropriate if you're going to do like a flag retirement ceremony. It's good to build up some patriotic stuff before you move that. Typically, never the national anthem at my campfires, just because number 1, it's hard to sing. Number 2, not everybody knows the words correctly. And number 3, it, in my opinion, is a program cornerstone rather than a bit player. The national anthem, in my opinion, is that kind of importance. So I typically don't use it very much, but I do a lot of other patriotic songs. Handouts are death. Hey, we're going to sing this song. Here's your handout. But don't use your flashlights, because I told you that earlier. And not to mention all your kids can read, you know, are going to be able to, you know, your tigers are like, oh, I can't read this, so it does you no good. Handouts are no good. Hand gestures, yep, but make sure there's safety. If the hand gestures are like you're doing, I'm Joe and I work in the button factory, you're doing everything in one spot. Push that button with your left hand. You push them, and using your foot, you're all in the same area. If you're doing something where, like the cheese moose, and you're running away, running in place, actually running is bad. You need to make sure that the motions of what you're doing fits within the confines of your campfire space. Because it's very tempting for the boys to go, well, we're running for the cheese moose, I have to run over here. Okay, that's how people get hurt, and all of a sudden then all your program becomes a first aid lesson rather than a program. So. Different songs, I bet all these songs you've heard at one point or another. I mean gosh, you heard that one since you were probably 5 or 6 years old. It is still a great one. Gets the boys to use a lot of energy, it's in place, you can go super fast, you can make it as silly as you want. All different ones. Scout Vespers is also a very quiet, easy one that eventually the boys tend to love, and the parents especially do, because they know the campfire's about over and hey, we're about ready for bed, life's good. Skits? Alright. Number one thing, remember, dialogue is the death of a skit. These boys, with a few exceptions, are not the wonderful thespians. If it has more than about 2 or 3 words, you're done. I mean, let's face it, they will sit here and they'll start tugging into their chest. And everybody, all will happen is all the boys in the crowd goes, what'd he say? What'd he say? And so for 5 minutes, all you got are kids trying to explain to the other kid what he was doing. And all of a sudden your program is, the wheels fell off. There are plenty of good skits that have only quick, easy dialogue, real quick stuff. Make sure you preview the skit, obviously, and Scouts and Law. Also, make sure that if you're using any props, they need to be oversized, because everybody needs to see it, and sometimes that makes it funnier.
We try to watch the number of kids involved, because the whole den should be involved.
Yeah.
The problem you run into is like they're walking to the store asking for something. If 8 kids do it, it's the most boring skit on the planet. So we take go in his pairs of 3s and say,
Exactly.
do you have this? It's the old 3 rule, right? Set up, punch,
Yep.
right? And
Or
they do.
split up and have
Or 2 skits.
do 2 skits.
Or one to
something.
cheer, one to
Yeah.
song.
Yeah.
Absolutely, because
But
you're right.
8 setups is no longer funny, it's just boring.
Yeah.
You're like, really?
Well, that goes with the 45-minute timeline, too.
Yeah.
Remind the boys that facial expressions can't be seen. I can't tell you the number of skits, like the kid's doing something with his face, but he's just there. And it's like, and I'm standing close to him, I still can't tell what he's doing. Like, are you angry? Are you sad? Are you constipated? What are you doing? It's also just as bad as too much dialogue. Teach the boys to speak loudly and slowly, because they want to get it. What do you say? So, and safety, always safety. All right, so let's say you have an inappropriate skit, moving on. MC should at that point move in and stop it. Not with anger, not with they just go and say, hey, woohoo! And that's time. Ladies and gentlemen, at this stage, it could be something almost as if it's a skit, just saying, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget, we follow the Scout of the Law. And even if we need to make sure that we are always doing these things and keep it in mind. Great job, guys, let's move on. It's just that simple of stopping it, reminding why it was stopped, and moving on without belaboring the fact. Because the boys more than likely weren't trying to pull a fast one. Sometimes they are, but not always. But but you need to make sure that you're reminding everyone it's about character. And also the parents appreciate that. It's a program with a purpose. And they like seeing that purpose plays in everything. Run-ons. Cub Scouts are horrible at run-ons. Horrible. Every once in a while there's a boy who has amazing timing, but it's very rare. Typically run-ons are best if the adults do them. And they can be the corniest jokes you've ever heard, because the kids more than likely haven't heard it. My favorite one of my pack is the one where we send off one of our leaders to go climb to the top of this tree to scout out something. And every so often, hey, where you at? I'm at 14 feet. Hey, great climbing. You go on. Eventually he gets to 42 feet or whatever it is. I'm like, how tall? 42 feet. Wait a minute. The book says there's no tree taller than 30 feet. Ah! And the boys, that's a funny one. And every once in a while a news flash comes in. Wait a minute, spot news flash. Roof. Simple. One of the funniest ones for kids though is be prepared. You have an adult come up and just like, be prepared, and he walks off. And later on, that adult and another adult, be prepared. The third time through, they all come up there, they don't say anything, they just stand, and someone in the background makes a really loud noise, usually with a horn or a whistle, that scares everybody, and then the boys, and they go, "We told you to be prepared." That's a great one, because it has a little bit, every so often the boys are like, what are they doing? Those are fun, but they're tough for boys to pull off. But they're a really neat part of it, and they're really sort of hooks for your parents as well. Stories. What's a campfire without story, right? Absolutely. Ghost stories, scary stories. There are plenty of ways to tell ghost stories, scary stories without making them to the point where the kids are going to have night terrors in the middle of the night and the parents are angry at you. Typically, it can always be, really intense, but then at the very end is a fun ending. An interesting twist. Bloody Finger is a great one, where you've got this one guy in, and we kept hearing, "I've got a bloody finger." And the kids are getting really intense. We were like, "I'm scared, I'm leaving." And eventually, I've got to leave, and the tiger goes, "Put a Band-Aid on it." The kids, because it's like, the tiger, the littlest one, is the bravest, it's okay, here's your Band-Aid. But it's intense, but then there's a funny, you release the pressure. It's not one of those where and this guy with the hook is in the forest and he's still here today. Good night. That's just bad. If you want to make it the most memorable Cub Scout camping ever, there's the one.
Did it at Boy Scouts.
Yeah, I know. Trust me, I remember many of those as an 11 or 12-year-old Boy Scout, like, oh my gosh. And I remember as a 16-year-old doing it, going, this is great. So.
Well, they had one about it was in Wisconsin, they caught one bear, and it was the founding of the camp and everything else, and this bear was massacring people, the settlers and so forth, and finally they captured, hunted down, killed it, right? But they also tried to go to bed, they skinned it, and they hung the skin up. The next morning the skin was gone. And he's still out there today. Of course, they were all like 11, 12 years old. I'm not going back to the campsite.
So Cub Scouts,
I wouldn't do
give
the Cub
them a
Scouts.
little release at the end. I'm going to have to be a little faster. There are tons of them. Heroes, humorous, real. They can be true stories. True stories are very funny too. Never scare the audience too much, but you give them a chance to feel safe at the end. Adventure stories, tall tales are fair game. Absolutely, tall tales are great. Miscellaneous. The key here on miscellaneous stories is that, on most of these stories, is Cub Scouts typically are not good storytellers unless they have lots of practice. They typically, it just goes on and it misses the point, and eventually everyone loses. Adults typically have more the ability to flair to keep you involved in what's going on. Cub Scouts learn that with practice, but a lot of times this is like having too many words in a skit. It's the death sometimes of a story. Cheers. You can make anything a cheer. Anything. Just make it a cheer. Even reading a book. Flip. Shh. That's your cheer. It can be anything. The object is, every once in a while the MC will detect that we need to release a little energy. Everyone get up, do this, and back down. Ceremonies. Flag retirement ceremonies are great, but you need to make sure that it doesn't last too long. Same thing applies. If you have a boy, even a ceremony that goes 5, 10, 15 minutes, it typically, the boys are they start to lose it. They're intense for a little while and it starts to wear off. Make sure you're safe. If you're doing a flag ceremony like this, see, notice here, the boys are going to just drop the flag there and the adult's going to come and flip it in. You don't want the boys actually putting their hand over into the fire area, especially with nylon flags. They just melt right up. You can do cut, no cut. There's a lot of different ways of doing this. And we do a flag ceremony as often as possible because the boys really do well with that. They really resonate with the responsibility of doing it. Cub Master Minute. Short and sweet. But don't miss your opportunity to put in a little bit of learning in it. Even if it's something about one of the skits, or how Baden Powell would talk about the reflection of looking up at the stars and remembering that each one of those is a promise that you've made. There are all kinds of just interesting little moments that you can draw in there. And so never miss that opportunity, but keep it short, because once again, even 2 to 3 minutes is longer. That's a little too long, because it depends on how good of a storyteller you are. Because sometimes you're telling it almost like another story, but you're telling the story that they're learning something from it. So never miss that opportunity. Fire extinguishing, it doesn't have to be fully extinguished, but you let it go down as much as you can when you do the Vespers, and then you bring it back up for s'mores. What is in safety? Gosh, I was horrible at the timing on this one. Have plenty of plans. A, B, C, D. Something's going to happen. Always have extra plans. What do you do if it rains? What do you do if skits are running long, running short? Have an extra one in your pocket, always have an extra plan. Always keep your fire in control. All right, so this is the 4 S's again. All right, conclusion. Number 1, experience is your best teacher here. Let the boys try. Scouting is the best program for it. If it doesn't work perfectly the first time, no big deal. It's not like a football game or a basketball game, how you missed a shot. No. Didn't work out time? What do we need to do to improve it? What do you think? Let's try it again. We can try that again. Practice, and successes build confidence and leadership and the ability for teams to work together. That's important. You know, have multiple plans. Tons of plans in your pocket. If you don't use them, great. Use those multiple plans next time. Maybe it's your primary plan next time. You know, it's not wasted effort. It's okay for your program to not be the most amazing thing ever. It happens. Shake it off, learn from it, come back and do a great program next time. Because I've had campfires, I'm at 3, I'm like, eh. And in reality, the boys there go, that was great. Really? That was great. Because I didn't feel good at all. You know, as them saying, like, hey, wasn't feeling the vibe for the crowd. Do your best, have fun, and the boys are going to have fun too. They derive from you. Your fun drives their fun.